at Marge's next year? And I said, I'm not. He said, no, Uncle Bill said that you're going to BC High. And I truly didn't even know what a BC High was.
So I went into Boston. The first person I ever met was Father Blatch. He was just the most wonderful priest, wonderful person. And that convinced me this is where I wanted to go to school.
I came at her again. I said, no, Mom, you don't understand. It's right down there. It's a block there. And she said, you're going to BC High. And I said, why? And she said, because I know that BC High will be an extension of my home.
I knew that I was home. I felt extremely comfortable with BC High almost from day one.
My mother was convinced that I was going to St. Sebastian's. And when I left my home that morning, my father knew otherwise and drove me to Mass Ave and did not break the news to my mother until the end of the day. Her reasoning being that she saw that wonderful academic site on Massachusetts Avenue and decided that's no place for my son.
Our freshman year was held in a 6-decker on Massachusetts Avenue.
We were actually in these homes that had rooms, and the classes were in these homes.
Yes,
on the
room upstairs on the fourth floor, because it came like this.
They're so cute.
This, and this, and this. Those were levels. The teachers down here, we're up here eating our lunch, you couldn't see us.
As an indicator of the condition of that building, was Father McCarthy in our first algebra class. He's trying to teach us some algebra, but there was competition from the trucks and the buses out of Mass Ave. It was a hot day, the windows were open, so he went over and he pulled the window down, and the whole thing fell out the sidewalk.
That was truly a step up, to say the least, when we moved from St. James Avenue to Marcy Boulevard.
Quite a chore to get into BC High.
When I came to BC High, I was looking
Oh,
at
that's
my car,
hilarious.
and it was rather an adventure.
From Brighton, whether it was to the north end or the south end, I should say, or over to the mud flats, it was certainly close to an hour travel each day. And when we played ball out at Franklin Field, that was even a longer trip for me. I remember.
Look at the glimmer in Dad's eye. Look at the glimmer in Dad's eye.
The best way, though, was to take the streetcar. The streetcar, and the streetcar then changed to the subway, which then changed to walking.
In my case, it was, I don't know, 20 miles of about 14 different car rides and you wind up going through 2 feet of snow. And I tell that to my kids, come on, Dad, we can't go.
It was frozen tundra. And it seemed in the winter that the wind would start somewhere out in the middle of the Atlantic and would be accelerating until it hit my face walking down the river.
They never called the day off. And there was ever
I love these three.
rain, snow, no buildings except us.
It was a wake-up call. Once you got here, the blood was flowing.
Down there really far away.
It was time to go to work.
My first teacher was Father Dave Leo, who was the first Jesuit that I really knew intimately. My uncles, of course, and my cousins, and I knew them in a little bit different way. Father Leo now was not only my teacher, but he was my mentor.
I knew what sin was after Father Leo. and I knew what forgiveness was after Father King. He was my favorite teacher. He was a lot of enthusiasm, nice guy. He identified with students quite well. Charles McCoy was an inspiration and certainly an outstanding coach and person.
Charles McCoy was my coach, and he was a great role model for me.
He coached us, he taught us, he christened some of our children, he christened some of our grandchildren, and he buried our loved ones. That's Sean McCoy.
There were a lot of moments at BC High.
One kind of strange, memorable moment was graduation. I graduated at about 300 pounds. And I remember we looked all over for a pair of pants to fit me. And we finally got a pair of pants from the size 52 waist, but we couldn't get a belt that big. So when I graduated from the stage of the Opera House, I had my arms tucked in so the pants wouldn't fall down.
McCartney would give away cars and everything else, and everybody in the school had to sell transports. Well, he'd bring them into school because there were 12 tickets stapled. Well, the good Francis Earl was in town. And Joe Hogan, who wound up the superintendent of schools in Connecticut, and so we got drugged or something over there. And Father Dooley said, come on, you're going upstairs, we're up to the 4th floor, gave us 2 boxes about this big, said, separate them. So we started. And finally, we were out about, almost finished the 1 box. It was like 4:15. So somebody looked out the window and said, ooh, it's getting windy. So Hogan says, don't worry, you open up the thing, through the other box.
Julian, you talked really about the best day you had at BC High.
Somebody tell me your very best day.
The very best day I had at BC High was graduation. What a relief! No, it was terrific. But I must say, after having spent 37 years in the Marine Corps, looking back on that, it was an easy transition from BC High.
There's an interesting story about another person.
It's transition.
Father Sheridan, who was formerly known as Montpere. He was the French teacher. And he also had some hearing difficulties. And we would have monthly confessions at the Immaculate Conception Church. And they would have 6, 7, or 8 confessionals going for the entire school. And there may be 200 or so kids there at confession. 150 would be lined up at Montpere. The other 50 would be spread amongst the other 6 because Montpere couldn't hear what you were saying. And would kind of judge by the tenor of your voice whether you really had some serious problems.
Some years after I graduated, my dad was at some sort of a reception, and Father Lyons, who was the Dean of Discipline during that time, as all our classmates know, was present. And my dad went and introduced himself, and Father Lyons thought for a moment. Joe Orr, he thought, he waited a while, looked out the window, and then finally came back and said, he was a good guy, but he hung out with a bad crowd.
The day I entered BC High, the day I got out, anytime I talked to Billy, it was about James Michael Curley. And so I said, Billy, you gotta give me James Michael Curley's speech in the cafeteria. And sure enough, he gets up on the cafeteria table. And so he can mimic that man like he was unbelievable, like he was his own flesh and blood.
I have many friends that didn't go to BC that I grew up with. And sadly, they have no relationship with the kids, the guys that they went to high school with. We went to BC High, and I know the class of 52 is unique in a lot of ways. We stayed very close. But we get together as a group, and it's almost like being back in 1948 to 52.
No, it's a special place with special people. You look at the class of 52 and the camaraderie, the spirit among all of us. You look at what we're there for each other.
I was the youngest, so all my siblings were going to World War II. So these kids were my family.
The circle of friends that were on that ball team are good friends to this day, and we got to know one another well riding back from Franklin Field on the streetcar and laughing in the locker room. And many of us, of course, have stayed together and continue to be in touch all these years.
It's just wonderful to be a part of such a wonderful institution. People often ask me, and they say, oh, what's your education? I said, I received a Jesuit education.
To me, it meant excellence, discipline, ever to excel. You know, my day back then, and Joe's day, and certainly today, you know, if you want to be the best, you know, you went to BC High.
As kids, we experienced what the judges call cora personalis, that personal care that they take for each and every one of their students. We felt that as kids, and that was a great plus about BC.
As you go through life, the basis of everything really came from BC High.
I was formed at BC High, and I know, I'm sure there are some teachers that would shake their head and wonder at BC High. And first of all, that I turned out, that I'm still alive, and that I turned out relatively good.
I'm really proud of that.
Being a member of the BC High community, being a graduate of BC High, and especially being a member of the class of 52 is a great honor.
Nick, stick your head out if you're still there. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Pulio, a member of the BC High staff, most responsible for this video. Many, many thanks. So we could now have the class move up to the stage area, and if the rest of you would have be patient for just a very few minutes, we'll take a quick photo and move into the other room.